What's going on YouTube? Flashy here and welcome back to another Destiny 2 video. And today we're going to be talking about another Strand build for the Warlocks. And yes, if you're seeing the exotics and the weapons, you might be wondering how this even works with Strand. But don't worry, we're going to be going over all that today. This build is absolutely insane. It's literally going to turn your void weapons pretty much into Strand weapons. But before we get into that, be sure to hit the like button if you've been enjoying all of the Lightfall videos here on the channel. And be sure to subscribe so you get notified of future videos. To quickly go over the build, you're going to be making tons of orbs. And I mean seriously, tons of orbs. You're constantly going to be getting your Strand abilities back. You're going to be causing massive volatile round detonations while also Strand suspend detonations simultaneously. What's also great about this build is it incorporates tons of new Lightfall weapons and of course the new subclass because we're using Strand, while also giving you kind of a degree of freedom of which grenade you want to use from Strand, whether you like grapple, threadlings, or suspending. A ton of different ways to set up this build. I'm going to show you my favorite way, so let's get right into it. For the subclass, of course, we're going to be going with the Needle Storm Super, and for our abilities, we'll be grabbing the Healing Rift for survivability, Burst Glide for our jump. Our only melee option is Arcane Needle, and I like to run Shackle Grenades, and we're going to talk about why in a second, but again, as I said before, this build works great with any of the grenades. If you really like grapple, you'll be getting your grapple back a ton. If you like the Threadling Grenade, you'll be getting that back a ton. But again, I'm going to show you why I decided to use Shackle Grenade in this build. Now for our aspects, there's only 2 available for the Strand subclass. But to give you guys a quick rundown, we have Mind Spun Invocation, which is going to enhance our grenade functionality. And since I take Shackle Grenade, we'll be able to hold and consume it to activate Weaver's Trance. Final blows with Weaver's Trance create a suspending detonation. Any final blow is going to cause the target to explode, and anything hit by it gets suspended, which is honestly one of the most overpowered ways to deal with any boss, any ad, any room full of enemies. Suspend is so good in this game right now. And our second aspect is going to be Weaver's Call. Cast your Rift to weave 3 Threadlings and deploy any Threadlings you have perched. So now down to the fragments, and it's important to note that honestly, a lot of these Strand fragments are great. So feel free to pick and choose here what best fits your playstyle. And let me know down in the comments which one you guys have been running the most. However, the ones that I like to run for this specific build are going to be Thread of Warding. Picking up an Orb of Power grants Woven Mail. Woven Mail is such a good buff to have. It basically reduces any incoming non-precision damage. It just increases your survivability by so much, especially when you're running around in PvE. And like I said before, we're going to be making tons of orbs. Our fire team is always making orbs because it's Lightfall now. So we're always going to have Woven Mail up. And it is just so clutch because you combine that with the Healing Rift and your survivability just goes through the roof. The second fragment is going to be Thread of Binding. Super Final Blows emit a suspending burst from the target. We're going to be getting our super back a lot, and we want to be suspending everything as much as possible with this build. After that, we'll take Thread of Generation. Dealing damage generates grenade energy. Honestly, one of the best Strand fragments right here. We want to be in Weaver's Trance as often as possible so we can chain suspending detonations with our weapons. So Thread of Generation is perfect because we're always going to be putting down a lot of damage, and that's just going to stack up our grenade cooldown. And finally, Thread of Continuity. Suspend, Unravel, and Sever effects applied to targets have increased duration. So we're suspending more and for longer with this setup of fragments. Really clutch. And before we get into the weapons, this entire build is centered around the Exotic Helmet Nezerac Sin, which has the armor perk Abyssal Extractors, Void Damage Kills, Increase Ability Energy Recharge Rate. And I'm not gonna lie, I had a scrub moment. I thought Nezerac Sin was void ability damage to increase energy recharge rate, but it is just void damage kills. That's right, you can use void weapons. And now while the majority of time you will see this Warlock exotic be used on a void subclass, since the void weapons work just fine with it, in Season 20 of Destiny 2, void weapons are absolutely ridiculous. Not just because there's new ones and new exotics, but also because all of the seasonal mods and just general armor mods. So when looking at the seasonal mods, you have something as simple as authorized mods. Void, the armor energy costs of all armor mods affecting your void weapons are discounted. Volatile Flow, picking up an Orb of Power grants your void weapons volatile rounds. Again, you guys saw how many orbs we're going to be making. You will always have volatile rounds ready to go. And of course, Bricks from Beyond, defeating a powerful combatant with a void weapon has a chance to generate heavy ammo for you and your teammates. Moving over to the armor mods, on the helmet, we definitely want to grab Void/Strand Dual Siphon. Rapid Void and Strand Weapon Final Blows create Orbs of Power. If you're not using a Strand weapon and you have all 3 void weapons, you could just go with the Void Siphon. Also, another really good pick would be the Heavy Ammo Finder, which increases the drop chance of heavy ammo on kill. We are going to be relying on our heavy weapon quite a bit. We want to kind of stack up as much heavy as we can get in this build. But the Siphon is just going to be creating even more orbs for us. Now, moving over to the gauntlets, as you can see, I don't mess around. I just 3-stack Grenade Kickstart. When your grenade energy is fully expended, you gain grenade energy. So the second we consume our grenade, we're already going to get a percentage of that grenade back. And since we're stacking it 3 times, we're going to get the most bang for our buck with that. And onto the chest armor, we can have the Void Reserves. Increases the amount of ammo you carry for Void weapons. This comes in very clutch for our heavy. And if you're using a special grenade launcher, that's Void, which we'll get into in a second. That works out really nicely as well. And then if you want, unflinching Void aim is really good too, as well as whatever content you're running, you can kind of run the resistance of whatever that energy is. And moving on over to the legs, we're going to grab 2 copies of Innervation, reduces grenade cooldown each time you pick up an orb. And we can also take Void Holster, gradually reloads your stowed Void weapons over time. Again, a ton of buffs here surrounding our grenade cooldown, so we can constantly get Weaver's Trance up, as well as a ton of buffs for all of our Void weapons. And then finally on our bond, we're going to stack 2 copies of Utility Kickstart. When your class ability energy is fully expended, you gain class ability energy. Now, there are dozens of Void weapons that work with this build, of course, but I'm going to go over a few that I've been running. And the first one is this Waveframe Special Grenade Launcher, the Harsh Language. Waveframe specials are some of, honestly, my favorite weapons in the game, so having a Void one that can get some nice perks like this Harsh Language is perfect for this build. Another classic go-to weapon that I'm sure a ton of you have a god roll sitting somewhere, either in your vault or in your inventory, is going to be the Funnel Web. And moving over to the heavy Void weapons, I've personally been loving the new Heavy Grenade Launcher Regnant. This thing is an absolute beast, especially after all the buffs that Heavy Grenade Launchers got in Lightfall. I'm not going to lie, I usually bring this into every encounter. It's just so good. It has some really, really solid perks that you can get on it. So yes, I do tend to run the Waveframe Grenade Launcher and the Heavy Grenade Launcher on this, but if I want to change it up a little bit and maybe put some more rounds down range, I've also been really liking the brand new exotic machine gun, Deterministic Chaos, which, if you guys don't know, has the intrinsic trait Heavy Metal. While holding down the trigger, every 4th bullet becomes a heavy projectile that weakens the target on impact. Such a good machine gun. So much fun to use. It absolutely just shreds everything in its way. You guys got to check this one out. And I'm sure you're going to see this machine gun in tons of Void builds moving forward. And that wraps up our Strand, but Void at the same time, Warlock build. I hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know down in the comments if you decide to try it out and what you think about it. Thank you guys so much for watching. Be sure to check out some of my other Destiny 2 build videos on the channel, and I'll see you all in the next one.